I was adopted at 2 days old. I was born in Jacksonville, Texas, to a Jewish mother, but non-Jewish father. And I don't think adoption is so common. Am I different? Am I not different?
The judgment you received being adopted, and now you're entering the shidduch world.
Entering the shidduch world, I would say to myself, like, you're doomed, Tehila.
When you heard that Tehila was adopted, when you were looking into her, what were your thoughts and feelings?
So to be honest, I was just like, hey, that's cool. It didn't make a difference to me, honestly.
I will admit that I was davening so hard. Within 7 or 6 dates, within that month and a half, we were engaged. And the whole thing was like, what?
Welcome back to another episode of Stories of Hope. This week we had the pleasure of featuring Tehila and Shaya, a Beis Yaakov girl that might be like you and a yeshiva guy who might be like you too. This episode challenges our judgment, our view, and helps us understand mental health from a perspective that we haven't yet addressed. I am so grateful to Tehila for sharing with her heart and soul what her life was like growing up as an adopted child, struggling with different mental health challenges that she really didn't have, but was told that she was experiencing. And without sharing too much detail, this is an episode for the books. So get cozy or crank up the volume if you're listening on your way to work and get ready for another special episode. This one's a doozy, and I know you're going to love it. Before we jump into this week's episode, which I know you're going to love, it is mind-blowing, I have a question for you. Did you check out the PZ Deals app last week? Because if you did, then you saw that they did something super, super cool. PZ Deals is always trying to accommodate the Jewish community to save you time and money. They actually made a category that was labeled Purim. So if you had the app, you saw it, and you were able to check out the costumes they had that I checked were 50% off, some had $10 off, and there were just multiple savings at the tips of your fingers because PZ Deals saves you time, money, and the hassle of returns because you found another price that was better out there. No. With PZ Deals, they offer the best price. And now because we're Jewish, there's always another holiday coming up. We have Pesach approaching. PZ Deals has a section called Kitchen and Home. And maybe they'll even have one this year labeled Pesach. If you are looking for cleaning supplies, PZ Deals. If you're looking for Tupperware, PZ Deals. New pots for unbeatable prices. PZ Deals is the app to download to get the best deals for the best price at the convenience on your couch or chair. So download the PZ Deals app, and with PZ Deals, never pay full price again. So you all know I'm a big fan of Raquel Couture, and I'm really excited because my friend is getting married. And in addition to having bridal gowns and wedding gowns, they also have evening dresses. So Raquel Couture caters to anyone. If you're the friend, if you're the bride, if you're the sister or the parent, they are the top industry for bridal wear. They customize, tailor, and have beautiful, unique pieces that are just sitting there, ready for you to try them on. Conveniently located in Brooklyn, New York, and Lakewood, it's just like the best place to go to. And what's super cool is if you mention Stories of Hope, you get 5% off your beautiful piece. So go someplace where quality is not compromised and service is top notch so that you can look as beautiful as you deserve to feel at Raquel Couture. Check them out on Instagram to see their beautiful pieces, and check them out in your local city or drive down there. It'll be worth it to find that perfect piece that you've been looking for. Hi, I'm Tzipora Grodko, and this is the Stories of Hope podcast. We are really excited and grateful to be sitting here today with Shaya and Tehila Landy.
Yes.
Landy. And there's a lot we're going to cover, and I'm just really excited. So Tehila, take us back to what your life was like growing up so we can get to know you.
My upbringing was completely normal. It was Beis Yaakov, it was yeshivish, it was typical. I went to Beis Yaakov of the Lower East Side, and then we have misdiagnosed Beis Yaakov, prestigious school, very typical, very mainstream, very normal. And then for seminary, I went to Elyon. Great experience, and grew up in actually Kensington, Brooklyn, New York, right? Black hats, white shirts, black pants, all the norm, everything that you would expect in a ultra orthodox community, and nothing out of the ordinary.
Thank you. Shaya, tell us a little bit about how you grew up.
All right. So I grew up in Bensonhurst, wonderful little shtetl also. Real yeshivish vibes, same straight through regular yeshivas, regular schools, I don't remember which playgroup I went to.
That's okay.
Don't worry, you were 3.
But all the regular stuff.
Tell us what makes you different than someone who's listening to your story who might be thinking, I went to those schools and I have that background, and they don't really know what else is coming with your story.
I was adopted at 2 days old. I grew up in Brooklyn, but I actually Texan at heart. Cowboy hats, cowboy boots. I'm kidding. If only.
Moved there.
I know. I was born in Jacksonville, Texas, to a Jewish mother, but non-Jewish father. And I was adopted through miraculous ways at 2 days old. And that's the blaring difference that I was feeling in myself. And I don't think adoption is so common. So it definitely was something which, we can go into or not, whether or not I was open about it or it was something that I just kept quiet. But it was a journey of realizing what that means. Am I different? Am I not different? Esther Hamalka was adopted, and Rus was adopted. Now, I don't know if they use the technical term of adoption, but point is, I was like, wait a second, Esther Hamalka was adopted? I got this, And also, a cute story was I went for Darya Sharm, right, for shidduchim, whatnot, and everyone's like, okay, get tested for Ashkenazi lineage, I guess. And my mother, if I ever say my mother or my father or my cousins or my adoptive relatives, my mother said to me, she said, Tehila, you're going to have to get Sephardic testing. And I was like, oh my gosh, what does that mean? She's like, your non-Jewish father was Sephardi. I'm like, oh, that's awkward. Thanks for telling me. So I went into the Darya Sharm office and they're like, okay, you're in a Beis Yaakov uniform. Sit down, blood. Okay, Ashkenaz, yeah. I'm like, actually, you got to do a lot of work, actually, Ashkenaz, Sephardi. And the technician was so nice. I was expected to be really, really shut out, so embarrassed. But she said to me, she's like, oh, honey, that's so sweet. Ruth was adopted.
Wow.
And I was like, oh. I was like, that's true. Rus and Arpa and the whole story. Boaz and everything. And so looking back in Tanakh, I get a lot of comfort. And that's sort of kind of my mentality right now. But I'm not going to say that it was all roses and daisies and dandelions. It was a journey.
Yeah,
so.
I'm sure. I have so many questions, but first and foremost, I just want to share my gratitude for you coming on the podcast, because there's a reason why everyone is put in a position. And sometimes people can choose to take what they have and use it for change, or take what they have and learn from it themselves. And I think it's extraordinary to highlight how Torah teaches us that this is actually the baseline norm, but probably through social expectations, insecurity, and fear, we've taken what Hashem is teaching us as a norm and turned it into a fault. And I love using Torah. I so appreciate that you brought it up, because it's our empirical-based evidence. There's so much judgment on backgrounds, on position, and we look at the Torah. and we look at our leaders, and Shaya, maybe you can help me out here because this is your expertise. But we look at like Zipporah, where did she come from? Her father was a bishop. She married the greatest leader of all time, Moshe. We look at Yosef. Where was he raised? In the home of a king who was the king of Egypt. Not like, we look at our leaders, and I wonder what would happen if we could appreciate that maybe Hashem is trying to teach us like the difference, the clash, like the class, like all of the expectations that we've created as a community. Like maybe that's not really the way we're supposed to see people.
100%.
And sure. I want to turn the mic to you, Shaya. When you heard that Tehila was adopted, when you were looking into her, what were your thoughts and feelings?
So to be honest, when I heard that Tehila was adopted, I didn't have any thoughts or feelings. I was just like, hey, that's cool. Because it didn't make a difference to me, honestly. I sort of knew that, knowing myself, I had a feeling that the person I was going to marry was going to be unique. I didn't necessarily think about the adoption part. I didn't think of that. But I had a feeling, they're going to be special, like Tehila is. And I was like just ready for anything. And when my parents told me she's adopted, I'm like, hey, sounds more interesting. Let's do this.
Yeah, I think it's probably safe to say that everyone wants someone that's special, but I think we forget that it's usually challenge that makes someone really special.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can you want the beautiful product without appreciating what led to that piece?
100%.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. What might you tell someone who would see that as a chisaron, or say like, oh, I don't want that. I don't want someone who comes from a background where they're adopted. What might you tell them?
So I feel like I'm coming from a place where I have the opposite understanding of how things work compared to the typical person. Because most people come to it with, there's a normal, and then there's the out of the box. And I'm not comfortable with something that's not the normal. So therefore, I'm going to, double check and triple check and make sure, I want to make sure I'm safe. People feel, not safe when they're not dealing with the normal, quote unquote. The way I've been viewing things for the past many years, I mean, not that old, but since I was able to develop, thoughts about these kind of things, the way I look at it is that the more challenges someone has, the more potential for growth, and the more potential for special, unique strengths. And I find specifically, a lot of times you'll find a person that's very challenged and struggling a lot, that if you look for a second, like don't look at their challenges for a second, look at everything else they have. And you'll notice they're very talented. You'll notice they have certain things that other people don't have. And this goes with so many, I mean, I do mentoring now. I work with boys. I hear about different guys that could use some, help in different ways. And time again, I keep hearing about the same story. Is a guy that's struggling, and everyone is so worried for him, and they want to make sure he's gonna, overcome his challenges. And I sit down with the guy, or I find out a little bit more about the guy, and I'm told he's very musical. Or he's very, it doesn't have to be music. He's very talented in this way, right? Like, by the way, like as if like he's challenged. That's the main thing. Like we have to focus on it. We have to focus on it. We have to fix the problem. Oh, by the way, if you want a way of helping him, you can like do some music with him because that might make him feel good. To me, that's like backwards. I'm like, what do you mean? That's the answer to the question. You're looking at half a person. You're looking at the half of the person that's challenged, and you're saying, "Oh, it must be that he's just not normal." But the truth is, what I say is the opposite. I say, of course he's not normal. He's a lot better than everyone else because he's got. Look what he's got. Look at the depth of the way he thinks, the way he feels. You know, music is a good example. I'm using music as an example because music involves a lot of feeling. It involves certain, train of thought, how you think about things, how you express. But it could be any talent. Photography, music.
Yeah, it's appreciating to see the person for a lot more than the things that they struggle with.
Right.
Why are we assuming that should be the makeup of the person?
100%.
And it should not change in reference to someone dating, in reference to seeing someone's family, seeing someone's finances. I think there's a desire to have this illusion of control. And maybe when things look a certain way, we have the illusion that we can control the outcome. And there's a lot of missed opportunity when we are swayed by illusion. And I hope that this episode challenges people to see things otherwise. So thank you for sharing that. That was so beautiful. Sure. Tehila, what was it like for you when you found out that you were adopted?
So that's actually a really interesting question because my parents, massive shout out to them, massive. Not just like shout out to you, like actually life-saving. Just like a point about my parents is that they're both mental health professionals. And my mother's a psychologist, my father's a social worker, and someone can say like, oh my goodness, you're like, sir, how did you not? People say to me like either, oh, you're probably going to become a psychologist, or like, did you drown? Like, are you alive? Hashem gave me the gift of having parents who are mental health professionals and know the ins and outs of trauma, and were able to catch it and were able to introduce me to adoption when I was actually, you asked like, what was my reaction? I was 2.5, 3 when I found out. So I'm not going to lie and say, oh, it was so cool. I don't remember.
Wow.
I literally don't remember. I was brought to a play therapist when I was about 3.5. Like the minute I could talk and breathe, and I mean, not breathe, but the minute I could talk and like think on my own, I was brought to a play therapist, and just very subconsciously, very gently, very gracefully, whatever the word you want to use is, it was integrated into me, and I never blinked. It was like, oh, like, and I remember I would come home a couple of times, not from the play therapist, but from just like different outings. And I would say like, so mommy, what does that mean? Like that's so, I was confused, I guess. And especially as I got older, I guess I should say my first reaction was like, oh, cool. Like, that's so cool. Like, I'm adopted. And like, I had really curly hair when I was younger. So I just imagine myself walking around like prancing around kindergarten saying like, friends, I'm adopted. And like, I actually remember like on the school bus, I said to one of my friends, I said, by the way, my mommy was just telling me that I'm adopted. And she's like, oh, I don't know what that means. And I'm like, I don't know either, but it's like, it's nice. And then that was kindergarten. And it was just like my friends knew, my teachers knew. They're like, I don't know if Tehila should be talking about the fact that she's adopted, but whatever. I was 3 or 4.
We'll be right back to our episode. But first, you have to check out Pizza Biza, making fresh hot pizzas on the spot by their professional chefs, indoor or outdoor in their pizza ovens, meat or dairy, plus full catering around the tri-state area and Florida. Specializing in events with several hundred people with no lines. You heard right. Full menu. You have to check them out on Instagram at Pizza Biza and visit them at pizzabiza.com. Pizza's my favorite food, so please invite me, Pizza Biza, on Instagram, and check them out at pizzabiza.com. These are the people you want to call. Pizza Biza, I'll see you at my next event.
So getting back to the adoption, birth mother story. So my birth mother, in terms of mental health, was given by Hashem, the same Hashem. She was given a host of tremendously challenging mental health disorders. And people throw around anxiety, people throw around depression. This was actual anxiety. We're talking actual anxiety, actual depression, hospitalizations, potential schizophrenia. We don't know if it was a thing, but let's just say that it wasn't simple. And she wasn't okay. She wasn't okay, which, as you could imagine, was one of the reasons I was taken from her. But she was born with bipolar. And I want to say that anyone who has a mental health struggle, it's your greatest opportunity for growth. So I want to put that out there. As much as it challenged my birth mother, I never met her, so I can't say, oh, now she's doing great. But I can say that it's not something to be ashamed of, right? And I'll say that, I'll be open about mental health personally also, like I said before, because it's something which is, it's relevant. I don't want to sound too harsh, but I think a lot of people need to stop pretending that it's not a thing, and they need to wake up and be like, oh, it's a thing. And actually, Hashem wants it to be a thing, and he's going to take care of it, and you're going to be good. And anxiety doesn't mean you're ugly. Anxiety doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means actually you care a lot and you feel a lot, right? We could go there, but it's, so anyways, bringing it personally to me and also applying to my shidduch situation and how on earth was I going to get married at 16 years old, which is normally when mental health issues kick in, right? As I'm sure you would know, usually from the age of like 16 to 25 are when things start to shake a little bit. If someone has something, at 16, it was decided that I'm going to be put on bipolar medication. Why? Because my birth mother had bipolar. And so in order, kind of as like a precautionary measure, we're going to take Tehila and we're going to bring her to a psychiatrist and we're going to put her on bipolar meds. So as a 16-year-old, not really knowing anything about meds, I was like, okay, I'll just pop a pill and be good. Like, no harm done. I run to the psychiatrist and, he goes, actually, we're also going to put you on depression medicine and anxiety medicine. Oh, and there's potential for a little bit of like, I'm forgetting the word, but mental like dissociation. So we're going to put you on a little bit of like a sedating med for that.
What a cocktail.
What a cocktail.
Especially for someone
Should have
that
gone to
doesn't
the bar.
need it.
And I was like thinking, I was sitting in the chair and I'm like, this is really not sitting right, but like, I'll take it. I think I'll be a good girl. Just be a good girl. And 17 years old, I started to have a lot of GI abdominal pain. And turns out we went to the GI, got an endoscopy, and the GI said, oh, your esophagus is quite messed up. And I said, why? I'm like sitting in school doing all the good things that I'm supposed to do, like masilas, going strong, studious, like I'm not eating or drinking, like what's happening? And he goes, are you on any medications? And I'm like, oh, great question. I'm on like 7. And he goes, yeah, so it's those medications. And I said, oh my goodness, what do I do? He said, nothing really. Just try to stay away from acidic foods, all the jam. And I was like, okay, I'll try. But I left the office like, Hashem, like what's happening? Like, ouch. And then I turned 18 and I entered 12th grade. And at that point, I had endured so much angst and so much physical pain. But long story short, I was put on a crazy amount of meds. And what made it even funner is I, most of the time, reacted very, very, very adversely to them. So it was going to the psychiatrist every 4 weeks and just constantly being switched onto this, onto the next, onto the next. At one point, I was on 8 medicines and 2 tranquilizers. And looking back, I'm like, what? How am I alive? And at one point, I actually had, it was ki'ilu, I overdosed. So I had a serotonergic reaction, which would happen to somebody if they overdose, Rahmanul Litzlan. But I didn't. I was given a new medicine, and the psychiatrist mistakenly didn't realize that it cannot go with another medicine. And I woke up the next morning with extreme tingling in my feet, extreme sweatiness, and within a few hours I was
Very
out.
Scary.
Yep. And I could see, I could hear, but very faint. And I went to the hospital. It was a Tuesday. I went to the hospital on a Thursday, and the psychiatrist felt terrible. And he told me, he said, if she's not better by Thursday night, you're going to have to admit her to the hospital, and we're going to have to figure this out. And laying on my bed, I remember thinking, like, it was 12th grade. And I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, I can think two ways. Like, either am I a rat in a lab? Like, am I just here and you're going to poke me and prod me and challenge me till I literally was almost dying? And what am I going to do? Or I can say, Hashem, actually, I believe in you and I trust in you. And that was the turning point a little bit of where I just was able to, like, really have a certain menuchas hanefesh and say, like, Hashem, this is clearly you. It's clearly Hashem. And so I said, Hashem is doing this, and therefore I'm okay. I, Baruch Hashem, do not have those disorders. Hashem guided me to an excellent doctor in Muncie, New York, Dr. Wurzberger, who said to me, he's like, what is happening? Like, you are on such a cocktail and this is not making sense, because I wasn't feeling better, right? Somebody who has bipolar and is put on Seroquel, for example, should feel better. But I was walking around the same, if anything worse. And he said, like, this doesn't make sense. He said, get off them. And my psychiatrist was upset. And he said, you have to leave my practice. And I said, okay, thanks. And he said, yeah, this is not even, like, safe for raising children. This doesn't make any sense. He said, it could be you could stay on one, but, like, not even. And he took me off everything. We started from scratch of zero, and I felt so good. And I said, Mizmor L'Suda, not even, to say 100 times is an understatement. I cried and I said, wow. Nishmas, and I said, Hashem, like, I don't know why I was scared like that, but now I know. I'm on the podcast and I can say that I could spread awareness that, first of all, there is hope. And even if somebody does have bipolar, right, that's not something to be ashamed of. But at the same time, I was relieved, because it's a challenge. Anyone who has bipolar, anyone who has those mental health issues, challenges, I admire them, truthfully. I really do. After a very long story short, I was brought to this doctor and he said, you're off the hook. And I was brought to a different psychiatrist who did a genetic swab test and said, you're good. Like, you are good. Hashem really only gives somebody a challenge that they can handle. And I wasn't handling. I wasn't. And so Hashem said, I got you. I'm going to send you to this doctor. You're going to get off the meds. You're going to be good. Things, you know?
Yeah. And it's so shocking for me to hear. And I can't even conceptualize how scary and challenging navigating high school, the climax of emotional dysregulation and navigation on this really poisonous cocktails of meds for so long. It just sounds like torture.
It was. I'm not going to lie. And then shidduchim came. And this isn't to mention that I had other reasons to be self-conscious also. My father should live and be well. He is blind. And so I had my whole life reasons to walk around with my head like, don't look at me. Like, don't look at me, please. Because we had a service dog. So I always walked around very self-conscious about that. I remember we went to Lakewood once, a very ultra-Orthodox community where nobody has dogs. And I was crawling in my skin. Not just Lakewood, Baltimore, Muncie, Cedarhurst, doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah.
A place where no one had dogs. And we were walking around and my father needs the dog for shul, for conferences. And I was like, I'm not having this. Like, oh my goodness. That almost like took over the adoption.
Wow.
Like, I was so distracted by that.
The judgment, because it was visual. People could see it.
Very, very, yes. Very judgy, very vibey. Like, ugh. And also another unique part about me is I am the only child, an only child. So people would ask me, oh, how many siblings do you have? And I'm like, I'm the only one. By the way. And they're like, oh. Some reactions were like, oh, that's so cute. You're probably spoiled. And I'm like, I actually wasn't. And some reactions were like, oh, interesting. Okay. I'm so cute to meet you, but like,
it's a really good invitation.
Part now.
By the way, Tia was very good at drama.
That was a really good invitation, and it upsets me that it must have happened way too many times for you to know how to do that so well.
Goodness. Oh,
I want to tell
you.
Tila is very talented also. One thing we didn't get to yet. She's very talented with the acting and drama.
A little too dramatic sometimes.
One day she's going to open a school. She's going to teach girls in Muncie.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Really now.
And it all started, we heard about it here first.
Yeah, we just decided this. I just decided this right now.
Opening up a school. Okay, guys, registration, bring it on.
So in addition to being adopted, your dad was also blind. And you said that the judgment you received from that, since it's more public that people can see, was almost scarier than being adopted. And now you're entering the shidduch world.
Of course, as an only child, entering the shidduch world, I would say to myself, like, you're doomed, Tehila. Like, Hashem's got your back, but you're kind of doomed at the same time.
One of my favorite things that Rabbi Wallerstein, Zichron Lebracha, shared was that when we get dirt thrown at us, we can think that it's burying us deeper, but really it's like seeds that are planting us to grow.
1,000,000%.
And I find that people don't usually recognize the strength they have until they're at a place of no more tolerance. They're so low that the only way to go is up. And then they're shocked by their ability to be able to climb out of the hole they were in because they never thought they could do it until you're not given a choice. So I'm going to give everyone some hope work. It's like homework, but it's hope work. My friend Allison came up with that. She's a marketing expert in Tel Aviv. Shout out to you. Your hope work is if you've been feeling reluctant, if you've been feeling resistant. So your hope work is to choose to have emunah, is to choose to have bitachon. It makes sense if it doesn't feel natural. It isn't. It makes sense if it doesn't feel warm and fuzzy yet. That's part of free will. That's why we have it. If it felt really good immediately, it wouldn't be free will. And that's a little bit of a cliff note that I'll leave right there for everyone. When Tehila was suggested to you, when you found out this part of Tehila's history, what was that like for you? And I understand that on both of your ends, you were the first people to go out with each other, right?
Yes.
And something that I love, I think it's the first thing I said to you when you reached out. One of the first things I said is that there can be people who have their own packages of challenge who are so fearful that it will get in the way of them getting what they want. And as you mentioned, Hashem, from the start, in the middle to the end, he doesn't go by any of these expectations, any of these social quote unquote norms. Like anything can happen, and we shouldn't never give anyone the belief that things will be more difficult because of something that doesn't seem to meet the, so to speak, like norm, because you're affecting their experience, you're affecting their upbringing. I mean, why give anyone more fear or pain than they already have? I want to know, Shaya, what message might you give to other guys who are being suggested to someone? And of course, now after this episode, they understand that if they hear something that sounds different, it only means this person is more miyuchad and special. But let's say they're not there yet. What message might you give to them?
I think that every neshama every neshama is cut in half, right? There's the man and the woman. So, we're always, every boy, every man is looking for their wife, and they're looking for the other part of their neshama. And we don't know what the other part of the neshama looks like. We don't know what kind of baggage it comes with. We don't know. And I want to say also, we don't really know what our side of the neshama is really either. Because we have, we know ourselves to a certain extent, but a person is so complex. And so there's so many, a person naturally doesn't see his own, negative things about him. We don't really know who we are or who we're looking for until we find them.
And you started navigating dating. What was your experience like?
Okay, so miraculously, completely smooth. Like smoother than smooth. Like lotion, like shea butter. Like so smooth. The exact details, I actually did not have a resume at the time. I was sitting at my desk listening to some Torah Anytime, greatest organization out there. And we also do music. So I was editing some songs. And by the way, just, the note of music, some songs, the soul is in essence, I think, really connected to the Shara Nagina. And some of my best songs, some of the most, I guess, melodious, I would say, songs were composed during one of like my hardest moments. Just a little point out there. But I was sitting at my desk and my friend, I had been working for Malki Ginniger's Ratzon program at the time. And I've been giving voice lessons, stayed at her studio for 3 a.m. and got to know her family. And basically, I'll give a shout out. Esther Stimler, now Hirsch, is Malki Ginniger's right hand lady. And she texted me on a random, I'm not even sure, I think it was a Sunday night. She texted me, hey, what's up? I have a potential guy for you. Can you send me your resume? I said to her, you're kidding. I'm 18 and a half, turning 19 next month. Like, no, I'm so sorry. But then I was like, no, you can't say no. So I was like, I'll get back to you on this. So she's like, Tehila, quit the games, send me your resume. I was like, no, Esther, I'm really, really young. She goes, okay, ask your mother, get on with this. Like, he's such a good guy, new. So I was like, okay. I ran to my mother, literally ran. I was like, Ma, Esther wants my resume. Like, what's happening? And my mother was like, really? Cool. Do you have one? I'm like, no. So she's like, well, I guess put together your basic information. I'm like, cool. Only child, awkward. Like, I don't know where this is going to go. And I literally was like, this is a joke. Like, this has to be a joke. To me, it wasn't so not surprising because prior to that moment of when she asked me for my resume, I will admit that I was davening so hard. And I want to emphasize the power of tefillah, the amount of mayrivs, the amount of nishmases. I'm not a big segula person. I wish I was. It could be, I want to know the secrets, Kabbalah, this, that. But more of a down-to-earth kind of like, let's just daven a mincha and connect to God. But I was saying nishmas, I was saying tons of mizmor l'soda. And I was like, you know what? Maybe this is a sign from Hashem. And it happens to be that Hanukkah, Ramaylich Biederman, Shlita, put out a little clip that said, anyone who gets a knock on the door on the first night of Hanukkah, right when they're about to light, should expect a huge Yeshua that year. And my mother had just told us, like, randomly, that it was Hanukkah time that this happened. And the first night of Hanukkah comes, and we were about to light, and the doorbell rings. And it's specifically somebody who's coming to collect tzedakah. And my mother she's a very holy woman. She was pale, shaking. She's like, what? She goes to answer the door and she's like, who is it? And I was like, oh, it's for sure a neighbor asking for a cup of milk, And he goes, tzedakah. My mother almost passed out. She was like, Tehila, I don't know what's happening, but something big is coming your way.
Aw.
And the week after Hanukkah around is when my friend texted me. And then shortly after that, I gave him a resume, not expecting it to go anywhere, because who am I? Like 18, 19? But Yeshua's Hashem Kaharafayan for real. And within how many? 7 or 6 dates within that month and a half, we were engaged. And the whole thing was like, what?
If you're read to a girl that has a unique background, something different, something special, if I may call it that. So, of course, obviously make sure it's safe, make sure it makes sense. But sometimes the most unique background can be the most right person, because we don't know what's going on up there. We don't know which parts of you have to connect to which parts of her, what your struggles are, what her struggles are, and how they have to come together to make even a bigger struggle sometimes. Sometimes it's how it works. And to bring out a beautiful family through that. And we really don't know. And it, you could be read to the most simple, easiest story, and you'd think, like, wow, life's going to be amazing. But first of all, usually it turns out the opposite, just from what it seems.
Yeah.
Sometimes people ask me, what's your experience with shidduchim? So I tell them I don't have any experience because I was never in shidduchim. I just got engaged to the first one. But that's what it seems like, when something seems too simple, it's usually not that simple.
There's Rabbanim who say some people have clear garbage bags and some people have black garbage bags, right? I usually like to interpret that as like a suitcase. Some people have one of those fancy, translucent, that the word? Opaque, whatever, something. Opaque is the opposite of translucent, whatever. Fancy suitcases and everything is like packed to perfection and it comes onto the conveyor belt. You're like, oh, that's your makeup. Nice to see. And then some people have those, suitcases which you don't see what's inside and you can open it up and it can be very hard. But that sometimes it could be, I don't want to sound too cliche, but that sometimes could be the suitcase which has jewels. Jewels are heavy. Jewels are compact. Right? And they could sometimes, also when you're transporting a diamond, you don't want to show that off, right? So sometimes a challenge can make a person look like, ooh, like what's wrong with you? But no. That's someone who's such a sparkling diamond once you're going to get to know them. And I think what Shaya told me before is that Shaya has his story also, right? Just as we all do. And it's something which, when he found out that I was adopted, one of the things that, if I can say, Shaya told me right away was, it didn't faze me because I've also been through my challenges. So It's cool.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
For so long, we've been taught to believe that you need to wait for things to change in order for life to get better. And you deserve to live the life of your dreams before things change. And that's what Live Better Academy is here for, enabling you to enrich your life by exploring the 5 core areas that contribute to your fulfillment and happiness. This course is here to make sure that you no longer need to wait. Exploring spirituality, health and wellness, recreation and soul, social support and environment, and your profession and ambition, my course helps you understand what you're missing, explore any gaps that need areas of improvement, and truly understand what you need to do to create the life that you deserve. It's a 5-week course, so you have to be fully committed. But the easy part is that it's all virtual. You can access it anywhere and anytime. It includes pre-recorded classes, intense coursework material to take the information, turn it into application, and ultimately transformation, and a live group class, which includes me and your peers. It's truly extraordinary, and I want you to be a part of it. So if you're interested, click the link below to schedule your free 15-minute consultation to see if it's the right fit for you, or send a quick text message to the number below to schedule your free 15-minute consultation. I cannot wait to meet you and be on this journey with you so that you can finally live life better. Despite everything you've been through, this is what your experience was like. And anyone who has a similar background or fear shouldn't be concerned that they don't deserve or won't get something like that. And anyone who's a matchmaker and has a bias shouldn't think that it has to be difficult.
For sure.
Yeah.
What helped me a lot, and I'll open up about a certain struggle, which I actually currently deal with, is something called, it's a really fancy word. I hope I'm saying it right. Don't ask me to spell it. Trico, whatever. The short is trick. Tricotillomania. This was something that I developed in 11th grade, which as a young teenager was life-shattering, especially to a girl and to guys. I think, looks is something which is very important. And trichotillomania, just to give a definition for those who don't know, is the urge to pull out hair. For me, it was specifically from my eyelashes and eyebrows. And it's something which you can't control. So it comes and boom, within 30 seconds, all of your eyelashes, not you, all of somebody's eyelashes, all of a person's eyebrows can be gone. Others have it on their scalp, but Baruch Hashem, I didn't have that as much, I should say. So I would say that, so going to school was a very, 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 very hard challenge. And on the note of not judging somebody, I would say that, I went to school and people would look at me, and I'm not going to say, specifics, and I'm not going to, the worst of it was I could get into salons where I would go for eyebrow treatments to fill in eyebrows and
That's a good story. You could say it over.
I will. I'll say it over. Basically, I'll say that, first of all, my friends were all so supportive. They never said a word, literally. So in terms of there being hope for people that are not judgmental and that cholesterol is amazing, shout out to my friends. You are incredible. And the way that I would go on the bus with no eyelashes, and sometimes I mustered up the strength to put on false eyelashes, but like, you're getting ready for the bus, you have no patience, you're exhausted, you have homework, tests, and I just sometimes was like, Hashem, this is you. You're gonna have to make it work. And the eyebrows was also a thing, and I would fill them in, and girls would ask me like, what's that brown stuff in your eyebrows? And I would be like, just playing around with makeup, just bored. And it was horrible, very horrible, and it was heart-wrenching. But I would say something which I thought about a lot was this experience can either make me an extremely angry, bitter person who never wants to see a face again in their life, who never wants to get married, who hates the world, hates God, and just gives up. I easily could have gone down that path. And I'm not going to say I didn't have thoughts that were like, I'm giving up, that's it. Look in the mirror, not see eyelashes or eyebrows. What do I have? Like, what's going on? And Hashem Yishmar. And instead, I did a real deep dive, and I said, Hashem, I believe in you, and I trust in you, and ein od milvado, and so this is good. And I would actually write on my test papers, like, ein od milvado b'siyata d'shmaya ani atzliach, and pumping myself up. And I would say, okay, Hashem is a meitiv. That means that anything he does is good. That means that ein od milvado means, right, and that whole shmooze I would give myself, which is true. And I said, fine, Hashem, I accept. And I am going to instead flip the coin. And first of all, I'm going to learn from this challenge and all my other challenges to be so, so, so sensitive to other people, so incredibly sensitive. I try my best. And if somebody says to me, what's that brown stuff in your eyebrows? I would be honest and say, not that I have Tricotillomania, I wasn't at that point of comfortability yet, but I would say, thanks for asking. I'm going to keep it to myself. And it was thankfully only one girl who kind of was socially off and asked, but I had this internal real decision. I was like, Hashem, I am not going to become bitter from this. I'm going to, if anything, embrace Klal Yisrael and see a Jew as a Tzelem Elokim and as a star emoji and as a gem and as somebody who's so much more than eyebrows or eyelashes. Like, stop it with the gashmias, right? Wow. It's like, yes, we want to dress properly, right? Our bodies are what's protecting our neshama, and something which is, the typical mashal, something which is so precious, is enveloped in something so beautiful. Yeah. But like, stop it with the nonsense and stop it with just surface level things. Look past my eyelashes, look past my eyebrows. And I had to do this to myself. I said, Tehila, you're not eyelashes. Tehila, you are not eyebrows. Tehila, you are Tzelem Elokim, Achilek Elokam Imal Mamish. Not like, oh, in theory. No, actually. You're divine. And so if I'm divine, by the way, my friends too. So let's just view each other as like, you're divine. We're all divine. We're so much more than just how we look, how we speak, how we dress.
Yeah.
And that's also for someone who's suffering with like either Tricotillomania, with you on that, with you on a machal, with something which is physically, I would say, handicapped,
Yeah.
There's so much more than that. Right? We're literally, Mashiach is going to come and it's going to strip away everything in the most beautiful way possible. And that's what gave me the chizuk to go into shidduchim with so much like strength and chizuk that I would go to the salons. And on that story, I had a certain salon in Park Slope that I felt was very zen, very relaxing. And I was like, that's my place. Bunch of Orientals, sweetest ladies. And sometimes I would go in and it was a challenge because for the girlies out there that know false eyelashes, you can't put one on if there isn't a hair there, right? For the men, sorry, ask your sisters or husbands or your father, or Google, I don't know, filtered phone. But like, you can't put something on something non-existent. And the lady would sometimes look at me and she'd be like, talking Chinese to her like technician friend and be like, how did you like, and I'd be like, oh, this is so awkward. But they were so classy about it. And they were like, honey, no kaput here. It's okay. I'm like, it's okay. Like, well, I'll deal with it, 6 eyelashes instead of 2,000. And the eyebrows also, like, you can't put ink on something you can't tint or tattoo something which isn't existent, right? So I would say to them like, no, just put on skin anyway. No matter. Just put on skin. Yeah. And they would be like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah. And I would be like, Hashem, I'm cringing. This is so hard. And like, I couldn't even think about dating. I was like, this is like, ouch. And I was like, okay. I was 18, turning 19, finally had grown my eyelashes and eyebrows back. A month before Shaya was read to me, the urge came and they all fell out. My mother's going to say, don't say fell out, say you pulled them out, fine, ma. They were pulled out. And I was like, no, I cannot go on a date like this. I can get married like this. There's no way. But again, I was like, Hashem, you're Hakol Yachol. You're Hakol Yachol and you got this. And we actually went to a Ruben Feinstein Shlita, he should be gesund and stark. He was involved in my adoption, very heavily involved. And I said to the Rav, I said, can I be open? I said, L'chvod Harav, I'm feeling very down. I don't have eyelashes, I don't have eyebrows. And he looked up at me. He goes, you don't have eyelashes? He's very down to earth, gadol. And I said to him, what am I going to do? What do I do? Help, give me a bracha, something. He goes, looks at me and he like goes, Tehila, look at mine. So I'm like looking and I'm like shaking, like, oh, like this is the gadol. What do we do? He goes, I don't have eyelashes either. Like he's all, like humble and bent over. And like he actually doesn't. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry for bringing that up. Like, yikes. And he goes, no. He goes, what do you need eyelashes for? And I'm like, oh, good point. Seriously, like mascara, whatever, not a thing. And that was also a hug that I felt was from Hashem. I mean, that hug was from Hashem. Where Reuven, the Gadol Hadar, doesn't have eyelashes. He said he wasn't born with them.
Wow.
I'm like, cool beans. Like, I'm good now. Like, and that was also a sign where I was like, okay, if Reuven could not have eyelashes, I think I could handle it, And it was a challenge, and I worked hard to grow them back. I'm not going to lie. When we were dating, I had them filled in. I had falsies. And people would say, like, wow, your eyelashes are so pretty. And I would be like, yikes, do I tell the truth? I'm like, well, thanks. Half natural, half not. Anyways, what's the weather?
Well, I couldn't tell. So.
Right. I mean, a guy probably would have a harder time telling, but it definitely was a challenge as well.
Oh my goodness. A woman's image is her greatest form of insecurity. And it can be so challenging that it can make her feel, very depressed. And the fact that that's something that you were navigating in addition to all the other beautiful, beautiful challenges you've shared, it's just honestly hard for me to grapple with, especially with your perspective. I mean, I feel like this is, I think this is something that I'll listen to again. This is an episode I'll listen to again. And I think it's an episode that is going to enhance Klal Yisrael as a whole. And I think what would be your last parting message to someone who has the same upbringing as you and has
adopted?
Oh, actually, I have to be more specific. Has the same hashkafic upbringing, and maybe they've been given a message that they're going to have to settle, or that whatever they struggle with is bad, whether it's a mental illness or a family dynamic or a financial distress. What message would you give them?
This is not easy because, like I said, everyone's going through some amount of pain. I think my message would just be this is a really hard answer, because I could say hang in there, hold tight. But when somebody's really going through something, it's like, I'm done. I've given up. Like, stop like, I'm not hanging anymore. No. But I would say something which got me through very hard times is the first fact, which is Amuna and Bitachon, which I said before, is not something which comes easy. Hakol b'yedei shamayim chutz mi'yirei shamayim. It's something which you have to choose. Happiness is a choice, and it's a mindset. You're not happy because you got a pair of shoes. You're not happy because your parents are together. You're happy because you are Atzalam Elokim, you're a Chelak Elokam Imal, and that you should be on high, like no cocaine needed, right? I'll also say that something which it could be, I know that I had a misconception about many, many, many times in a row, which my Rebbeim pointed out to me and corrected my thought, which is having Amuna and Bitachon doesn't mean that there aren't challenges. It means that there are challenges, but the entire time you know that your loving Father is cradling you in His arms and is carrying you through it. And Baruch Gozer Umekayim. And whether you feel the strength or you don't feel the strength, it's there. And whether it's sometimes having to cry and having to just say, Hashem, why? And that shot that I heard from that Rebbitzin about, it's not lama, it's lima, is not helping me right now, right?
It's so beautiful. This has been groundbreaking. And I mean, thank you feels very small in reference to something that you did that was very, very big. But I will use it. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your beautiful story of hope. It's been an honor to meet the two of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for watching another special episode of Stories of Hope. I know, as the interviewer, when I thought it just couldn't get any better, it did. And if this interview was memorable for you, if it meant a lot to you, if you're thinking, wow, where do they find these people and how are Tehila and Shaya so brave and courageous? Please let us know. Let them know by leaving a comment in the comment section below. I'm so grateful for all of your comments, for your emails. I read them every week, and I can't continue this work without your support and without your help. And we probably can't continue to get exceptional, brave interviewees without your support and your help. So thank you to every single person that continues to make Stories of Hope everything that we want it to be.